And I want to be able to put my knees on either side. I'm going to start to work the calf here. Feels a little bit too far away. I'm going to scoot up just a little bit further, right in there. I really want to be able to traction. If you look at the angle of like where my spine is going and what is going on with her femur, I'm tractioning the hip as I pull into the calf. Tractioning the hip as I pull into the calf. Then I'm going to push her away, bring her up past 90 degrees. I'm going to sit on my keister, and I'm going to lengthen my leg completely with my toes facing lateral, out and away. Disengage, lean back, pull her onto my foot. You dying, Kristen?
I'm just tired.
I'm only going to go about 50% of the way down the femur, or I'll lose leverage. I'm going to turn my toes. They're basically right underneath the knee. And then I'm going to let her leg roll open. I can hopefully have her shin completely cross mine. If you just wind up in a position where you're holding this way, this is completely fine. But I actually do prefer if I can get them to wrap around. And then I've got this nice little handle. This whole side becomes its own little handle so that I can start to use the opposite leg. So I'm going to come in here and big, broad arch. This is where you start to almost move the person around the mat, and don't be worried about that. Like if you, Kristen was having issues with this, like how do you line the person up on your mat? Because after you work on them, they become the dead body, and it's like they got this crazy chalk outline, some discombobulated form. I would literally just pick up their legs and kind of drag them back to the center of the mat as part of the treatment. And now heel press. Not ball pad foot. We built up to this. And at the moment, we're pressing more in the posterior compartment of the upper leg, which is semimembranosus, semitendinosus, and biceps femoris. Well, you'll notice that in this case, this is all by feel. The left leg is extended. The right leg starts to just on and off, on and off. Then big, broad arch again. If I get tired on this right arm for some reason, if I feel like I'm slouched or something, you can always switch and see if that changes your posture in a way that seems preferable. In other words, does it feel better to you? Big, broad arch again. Then, I'm going to bring her leg up using my leg. I'm going to drop the inner knee. The right knee comes up, and she's right into my holster. If you don't feel like they're sticking, they're not quite in the right spot where you can hold them in place, feel free to reposition them. And I can usually use my thigh to block that external rotation. You can see here that my thigh is pressing. If I move my thigh out of the way, you see how she just rolls open? If I want to change that, I can control the degree she externally rotates. I can also use that to my advantage to be able to allow her to externally rotate like this. So there's this external rotation of the hip, and at the same time what's going on is I'm pressing pretty deeply into the adductors as I come in right here. Her leg is out in lateral, but I'm also checking her eyes because I don't want to press too deep. It's easy to overwhelm somebody here. This stuff can be real tender, right? Because what's happening is you're lengthening the adductors and applying pressure simultaneously. I almost can apply less pressure. I don't have to work as hard because we're using the mobilization at the same time. But I was like, why are they reporting this? It's like, oh. So I'm going to isolate. Now, if I don't isolate here, watch this. Right? Still hip movement, still pelvis movement, but this is going to isolate down into this hip. It's almost like I'm grabbing the quads and externally rotating and holding them in place. So big, broad mobilization, all through the gluteals, all through the lumbar spine. I gave her a couple of those, and she likes that, right? if you did this to someone, we had some issues in the group this week because somebody with low back pain. And I think they were kind of questioning whether they did things right because the person had like a bad response. And it sounds like the person might have like a herniation or something like that. Like a bad response after the fact.
Yeah.
And, you know, if I was doing the first portion, if I was just doing this and you went, oh, this is awesome. And you went, oh, no. I go, oh, okay, I'm sorry, is that too much? And it's like, it just makes her back hurt. Then I just do the lighter version. It might not even, if I bring you to here and this is great, but over here is like, no. Then I just go back to here and you go, how does this, does that help? Because you want stuff to feel beneficial, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to feel like you're fighting the person's body.
No.
There's two big movements here, okay? The first one is bringing the knee to the opposite shoulder to lengthen piriformis and the gluteals. Then it's to shot put the hamstrings, which lengthens them.